How does a mechatronic engineer end up working with the fabulous team at RPA Women's and Babies? I started work in this area after the traumatic birth of my son, Oli. It was in this process that I learned about the inadequacies in current obstetrics monitoring. The problem for me as a mother was when I approached ward, I was attached to the industry standard CTG monitoring. This was a problem for me as a mother, as not only was it uncomfortable and restrictive, it was cumbersome and highly invasive to my desired birthing process. While this technology and the events that followed started with me, and that it was up to me as a woman and a mother to decide that this wasn't adequate for a mother going through pregnancy and labour and entering into parenthood. This was something that we needed to do better in obstetrics monitoring. And it was something I knew as an engineer that we could do better. It was also up to the likes of Professor Jonathan Hyatt, Dr. Hala Phipps and Dr. Graham Brooker to hear me out and hear my experience and where I wanted to take this and where I felt we could take obstetrics monitoring. These three fabulous people took me on and became my PhD supervisors. Hala has been instrumental at communicating with the engineering faculty. Graham has been instrumental in a number of medical technology developments and working directly with clinicians. And John has been renowned in developing innovation within the obstetric space. It was with their collaboration that really allowed me to see that this technology was not only inadequate for me as a mother, this technology was inadequate for clinicians. It requires a high clinical resource. It requires subjective interpretation that is now being directly correlated to increasing interventions. This makes it a problem for the hospitals and the health systems alike, as they're required to provide the resources for these increased interventions. A woman who ends up with a caesarean section today ends up with an 85% chance of having a repeat caesarean section for future pregnancies. It was also up to people like Dr. Albert McKern, who left money to the scholarship to reduce pain and suffering for mothers and babies during pregnancy and labour. As it's this scholarship was the only reason I was actually able to do my PhD as a mother of 2 young children and afford daycare. Throughout the PhD is really where some of you will understand you start to immerse yourself in the literature, and we gain more and more support into the inadequacies of current technology and monitoring methods. The subjective signals that I speak of, we constantly monitor contraction frequency and fetal heart rate. And these are things that right up to this year, the Cochrane has reviewed in a number of reviews now, that these are directly correlated to increasing interventions, not only when continuous monitoring is used, but admission and intermittent monitoring as well. It is up to people like Robert Ogle, who kept an open mind, who understood that engineers require very different resources to that of clinicians. I don't think it's every day someone has someone coming to them asking for a very zooped up gaming machine. It is something that as engineering we actually require for a lot of our processing that makes technology like that we've developed possible. It is also up to people like the Australian Centre of Field Robotics and the Centre for Robotics and Intelligent Systems, who provide lab-based technical support and space for us to be able to develop this technology. When we started this process, we developed our first phase technology that enabled us to check whether a very cheap solution and the sensors we wanted to use would be viable. As you can see here, something developed in the engineering environment isn't always very suitable to then transfer into the clinical environment, just as invasive, if not just as cumbersome, as current products. It was then up to people like Sally and Karen, who were leading the labour ward at the respective times, to coach myself as an engineer in the processes on the clinic and the ward. This is where I truly learned exactly what happened in monitoring today outside of being a mother in that situation. I learnt the differences between women with continuous monitoring for various risks, inductions, augmentations, as well as the intermittent monitoring processes for everyone else. I learnt exactly how I could design a technology that would fit best around these current clinical practices instead of roadblocking them like so many new technologies seem to do. I also learnt just how inadequate the current technology was for applications in remote monitoring and to reduce admissions. It is up to people like the fabulous team of midwives and clinicians that we have supporting us on the wards at RPA Women's and Babies. These people are the face of our research and our recruitment. It's these people that enable us to be able to consent women, consult them, and not only get our data, but also get feedback on how this technology is working on ward for them. With all this feedback, we were then able to develop our proof of concept phase 2 device. It's this device that means that you can start getting your IP processes through. It's this device that we've managed to collect 70 women to date, and the data's 4. Based on our first phase, we were able to identify the exact location we could attach this device, not just to get relevant data for us as engineers, but to also fit in with clinical practices and not having to constantly remove or reposition the device. We had a technology that we wanted to get out there to help women, but it was clearly still in research land. So how do we take that jump from being a research project into a product that we can get out there and help people? This is where it was up to Cicada and New South Wales Health, who have a program called the Medical Device Commercialisation Training Program, which a few of you, I think, heard about yesterday. This program was fabulous for us to actually get out there and interview our customers and stakeholders that are going to help us transfer a research project into a commercial product, and a very viable one at that. We got out there and interviewed over 230 customers. This ranges from administration in hospitals, mothers themselves, clinicians, being doctors and midwives, GP practices, as well as manufacturers and developers. We identified what the true need was for our technology and the best ways we could get it out there. This course also helped us identify the need for that team that's going to take this to the commercial environment. And this can be a mix of those in the research team as well as the commercial team. It required people like Rishi and Carla, who took on the project full throttle and let us develop our commercial team, providing a mix of expertise from engineering, from midwifery, from obstetrics, and also from more commercial medical device backgrounds. It is up to a number of people, and it was also very much up to my family to allow me to have this process. But all these people you see here on the screen were instrumental to actually getting this technology to the point it is today. So what is our solution? Our solution is Oli, a patch that remotely monitors pregnancy and labour progression. It's a non-invasive patch that provides real-time feedback on uterine activity, maternal and fetal movement, exertion, and how these all correlate to progression. Oli is an easy-to-stick patch, communicates directly to a smart device, which then transmits the data to a cloud, accessible by a clinician pretty much everywhere in the world. With Oli, we're improving our ability to remotely monitor women who present with risk or would otherwise be admitted early or for long periods. With Oli, we're improving our ability to predict an individual's ability to progress to a normal vaginal delivery. In doing this, we're able, in our current proof of concept studies, we've been picking up some women who had ended up having a failure to progress significantly earlier than intervention was being provided. We're also potentially able to pick up women who may be able to progress on their own timeline, not having to have a custom one-size-fits-all progression timeframe for an individual. With Oli, we're improving our ability to tailor interventions to suit the individual. No two women respond to interventions in the same way. Syntocin is a fantastic example of this. Syntocin is a synthetic hormone that's provided to induce or augment labour. Some women are very sensitive to this drug, and it can lead to things like hyperstimulation, where the uterus is contracting quite fast and can lead to a uterine rupture. Other women don't respond to the same doses, leading to stalled labour and failure to progress. The ability to pick up these complications early is crucial to not only be able to intervene or take someone to correct course early, but to think of some innovative new methods that we might be able to minimally invasive intervene to aid progression. The Oli opportunity is huge. 300,000 women give birth in Australia each year, 4 million in the US. Around 93% of these women are monitored using the current technology. In the world, the Oli opportunity is scalable, with 136 million births per year. Where to from now? We have our proof of concept technology, and aside from finishing the PhD, we're in the process of a capital raise. We require 1.79 million to actually get this to a point that we start gaining revenue. From there, we're projecting that we'll get clinical sales and approvals by 2020, 2021. This is something that I feel is a prime example as an engineer and a steep learning curve in that you can have an idea after you experience a problem. And there are a lot of people out there that will tell you that you cannot do it. It would have been done if it was required. But it's also something that you need a team around you who can supplement your experience and skills. Even if you are not an engineer or an entrepreneur, you can actually support projects like this, getting out there and helping women. Obstetrics monitoring needs to do better, and Oli can do better. But medical technology needs to do better, and all of you can assist that.